All right. So welcome to the Gather and Grow series. I'm Dana Williams. I'm with Jacqueline Robinson. We're just going to invite you to come and just join us right now. It's 12 noon Central Time. We are meeting here once a month at the end of every month just to share kind of what's hot in the news, and especially as we support leaders and help with leaders. And that's part of our passion, is really just bringing you what's going on in the world, and then how we can just take that information and help us build ourselves and you as leaders, as better leaders. So thank you for being here today. If you want, we'd love for you to go ahead and put in the notes where you're from. We'd love to see who all's with us today and where they're from. We're going to be answering questions at the very end of our time together today. So you can be writing your questions and we'll pop those in at the very end. So be ready to ask those questions. And I just really want to take a moment and just introduce myself. And then we'll also have Jacqueline introduce herself. So Jacqueline, you want to go to the next screen?
Absolutely.
Yes. So I'm Dana Williams. I spent 25 years in corporate and leadership, and I just have a passion for helping difference makers make an impact. And I think so many leaders, I know who you are out there, you want to make an impact, but you're feeling a little stuck right now. And there's so much going on in this world. And I just love finding tools and frameworks to help leaders make a difference. And I'll kick it over to Jacqueline and she'll introduce herself.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming from.
Yes.
Like Dana, I think we both bonded on our connection to want to make an impact and support those in the workplace and see individuals thrive. I spent close to 9 years at Gallup, and now I am working for a company called Nine Muses Consulting that I founded. And I'm an executive coach and an organizational consultant. So I love helping individuals and workplaces move from surviving to thriving. So happy to have you here today.
Yes.
In case you're wondering, what are these two up to? What are they going to be talking about this morning? We really want to get into this idea of the Great Detachment. During COVID, we had the Great Resignation, and now we're in the Great Detachment. So what does that mean? And what does it mean specifically for leaders in the workplace? What are some of those root causes? And then what's the impact that it can have on the leadership teams and the employees overall? And then we're going to get into this reconnection framework. So what does it mean to tap back into the workplace and feel a little bit more tethered, a little bit more attached and engaged, so to speak? And then we'll end with some Q&A. All right. So the state of the workplace. We thought this would be a good place just to, help everyone see a lay of the land. What's happening right now? Mm-hmm. So this is the first time that we've seen a bit more of a dip globally. Right now, 21% of the global workplace is engaged. And what that really means is these are the hand raisers. These are the ones that are going above and beyond in the workplace. They're psychologically and emotionally attached. They're loyal. They're committed. They're enthusiastic. But the number has dipped because there's more people that are starting to become detached at work. What that might look like is, the lights are on mentally, but no one's really home. They're not going above and beyond anymore at work. And that can hinder productivity and performance. And beyond that, we're also seeing a dip in the global life evaluations. So we're at 33% in terms of people feeling like they're able to thrive. Dana, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is, I haven't seen these numbers like this. I don't know. It's been a long time. And I think there's so much change going on right now in the workplace. And I liked how you said these are the hand raiser. These are the people that are really, 21%. But I'm thinking about what the effect of the leader is. If they're not engaged, their employees aren't going to be engaged. And so it really starts with the leader. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious and want to kind of bring up, and love for our listeners to also, share their thoughts. But I'm wondering what the difference is between burnout and just, this life evaluations where they're just not engaged and they're starting to have these symptoms of not being engaged. How do I know if I'm a leader, if I'm engaged, or if it's that I'm not I'm not doing well, and I'm burned out.
Yeah. Burnout's going to feel, if we take the definition from the World Health Organization, you're going to feel a lot more mentally, emotionally, and physically just exhausted. You might come home and you feel like your brain is just noodles and glue because you're so taxed from the day that you've had. And there's that sense of dread for going into the workplace the following day, or if it's a Sunday, you're getting the Sunday scaries. But it's not just
Mhm.
every day. You're
Mhm.
feeling that overall sense of dread. Um, Whenever you're detached, you're going to feel not necessarily a sense of dread or emotional exhaustion so much as a disconnect. Maybe you no longer feel like you're living the mission and purpose of the company. Maybe you feel like you're not able to play to your talents and strengths anymore. Um,
Mhm.
Maybe you feel stagnant. So learning and development slows down. Or as a leader, what that might feel like is you've done all you feel you could do in the organization, and you'd like to have some succession planning take place and go to a new organization, or transition into a new role. But there's just so much uncertainty across the global job market that you don't want to take that leap yet.
So the difference could be, here's that leader that gets up and he works out and he eats well and he's just doing the routine, but he's just not. I love how you talk about lights on, no one's home. He's just kind of there
Yeah.
existing. That's not engaged. But if
Yeah.
they're burnt out, they're having a lot of sick days. They're not eating right. They're not. I had a leader that was going through that and she didn't realize it. And she was just couldn't see the forest for the trees. She was working late nights. Her team was working late nights. She hadn't had a vacation in 2 years. She hadn't really had time with her friends or family, and she was just exhausted. I love how one of our listeners right now said, makes me think of languishing per Adam
Oh,
Grant's definition. Yes, it was languishing. But you know what? Guess what? She was afraid to tell her leader that she couldn't take on more work because she was afraid that he would think she wasn't doing enough. And that was that. It's all starts on the inside of what we're telling ourselves and how we're managing ourselves. I thought that was and once I gave her the permission to tell him, they'd worked together for 10 years.
I love.
He called me a week later and said, I cannot believe she's going through this and she didn't tell me. So if you're a leader out there and you're noticing some of these signs in your people, that's definitely burnout. But if you're
Mhm.
also a leader and you're just doing your day and you don't really care, you just kind of quit caring about work and you're just doing your thing, you're eating right, you're taking care, then you're disengaged. Is that what we're saying? Kind of, I just want to make sure our audience feels that.
Yeah, you're feeling, and I would say, for those that know galloping in Q12, I'd say not engaged.
Yeah. Instead
Not
of disengaged. Yeah.
engaged.
Not engaged. Yeah.
Uh, you're just there. You're just there. Put
Yeah.
nose in the water, but you might not be moving the boat forward,
Yeah.
or it's very minimal.
The lights on, no one home. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a great. Well, what causes this? What do you think are the root causes and the impact on this as we
Yeah,
get
let's
into that?
what. And I'd love to get your take too on what you've seen. But
Yeah.
as you and I were talking about this, one of the first things that came to our mind was the post-pandemic workplace shift. Um,
Yes.
the workplace itself has changed. So what are your thoughts? I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. So I have futuristic in my strengths. I'm always looking for trends and looking to see what's going on. So I'll look back, but I also like to see pattern. I see patterns because I have strategic. So I was like, wait, we went through the pandemic and then we had the great resignation where everybody left, just said, I'm not going to work anymore. I'm going to change my life, whatever. And then all of a sudden here, like a year and a half later, 18 months later, then we're going through the great reshuffling. And then everybody's reshuffling. And then some exited, some didn't, but people were just keep moving around. And now we find ourselves where the leaders are just like, I'm here. I'm going to stay here because there's really nothing else out there right now for me. So I'm just going to be here, but I'm just not going to be engaged. I'm just going to do my work. I'm going to show up when I need to show up, but it's going to be just status quo.
Yes.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yes. Yeah, same. Yeah. No,
And
please.
it's kind of interesting. And I think one thing that we'd love for y'all to take away today as you're listening to this is kind of think about yourself.
Mhm.
And where have you been over the past 5 years as a leader? And where do you think you are today? And who is that affecting? Because, it's all these workplace shifts really affect your whole team
Yeah.
and your family and yourself. And sometimes we think, oh, I've got it covered. I've got my mask on. Everybody's, I'm good. But no, we want you to be your authentic self. And how do you do that? And what does that look like? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I'd love to kind of talk through kind of too, Jacqueline, this just with the rise of AI in the midst of all this.
Mhm.
What are you seeing in this whole culture right now in the workplace?
Yeah. And I think the AI combined with the workplace shifts with hybrid and remote work has put even more tension on leaders because, before AI really just blew up in terms of chat GPT and so on, they were already feeling stretched thin by having to lead with more intention and how they connected and communicated with their hybrid and remote workers. Now you put AI into this equation as well, and I think they're just feeling more of that pressure. Like, oh,
Mhm.
I've got to find ways to connect and communicate with my team, and they're across the world, or they're just across the state or across the US. And now I've got AI I have to manage. And there's all these new programs coming out all the time. And I think Google has Gemini now. And
Mhm.
so there's just this with AI and technology. I know a lot of leaders right now are thinking, how do I incorporate this into my workplace? To what degree and what program should I use? Because the minute I learn one, something new pops up. And so
Mhm.
if they're not moving quick and adapting, then they're left out and the competition has found a way to, push out new products and services and be even more efficient and more expeditious in getting out those products and services to people.
And this has caused, yeah, I think that overwhelm of so much information coming from so many different sources. I
Yeah,
know as an entrepreneur and running my business, I go through that too. And it's like, but who are my trusted resources and who am I going to listen to and where am I going to put my boundaries up? Because it
right.
gets crazy. And then you start feeling, what is that fear of missing out that you didn't learn something. And there's this gap between everything that you feel like you need to learn and what you really need to learn to keep yourself. So a lot of tension there is what I'm feeling. And
That's a
then just craziness. We haven't had this in a long time, but just this whole inflation and global disruptions that's going on. I know you just came back from an international work trip and you probably saw this even over there, right? And I'm just hearing about it from all our international friends right now, as well as the United States. So what are you hearing?
yeah, just the shift. And I think a lot of leaders are feeling the pressure to try to stabilize their workplace and even save on money where they can because they don't know what the global economy is going to look like. And we know there's a lot happening with supply chain and logistics, and that's been happening since the COVID era. But
Mhm.
how are customer relationships changing because of supply chain and logistics, tariffs? What does that mean for the way some of these companies are working? So I think a lot of leaders are trying to, you know, create some stability in their workplace because they don't know if there's going to be layoffs or how it's going to impact their customers. And this is a part of the detachment that we're seeing as well, and why people, leaders, employees, et cetera, aren't
Mhm.
leaving the company because they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so it's feeling a little too risky to try and get out in the job market right now with so much shifting that's taking place.
Yeah, and this impact is like think about as a leader right now, just decision making.
Yeah.
How do you make a just overwhelm and then just feeling this whole disconnection from what you can do because there's just too much swirling, and then who you are as a person. You're trying to be your authentic self as a leader, but you're also dealing with day to day and just responding and reacting sometimes,
Yes.
and I think I'm seeing a lot of that where people are just, here's something I got to do and I got to do it now and I got to get it out the door. And it's more of that executing instead of just taking a breath and really saying, wait, is this a have to today? Is this really, or are you just feeling your energy by getting things done? And so the impact it's causing is a lot of confusion in the workplace and a lot of, with leaders that can't establish the clarity even for the day.
Mhm.
Their followers are just like, I can't keep up because I don't even know what we're supposed to be doing right now. And if the leader doesn't know, excuse me, the team won't. And there we go with the team getting disengaged.
Yes. And you bring up a really good point too, because if we look at the research behind leadership and their impact on their sphere of influence, if leaders are putting that oxygen mask on themselves and they're engaged, their well-being feels great, then their managers are 39% more likely to be engaged. And if the managers are engaged, then the employees are 59% more likely to be engaged. So it really is that time, to your point, to look inward and take a pause and say, how do I deal with all of this hullabaloo that's happening around me and really feel grounded, as grounded as I can, given the changes, so that I can feel stable enough to communicate what I do or don't know to the rest of the team.
So we've been talking a lot about, what is the path? And right now we've been talking about the root causes and the impact of this, just, this disengagement in the workforce. But now I would really like to spend the rest of our time talking about, okay, what can we do? If we're a leader, a manager, we've got a group of people that are following us. What are some things we can do to help put that oxygen mask on us? And before we start trying to save everybody else.
Yes. Yes. Well, we talked a lot about focusing on strengths and well-being, one of our favorite things to talk
Yes,
about.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think strengths are it's a good tool to go to, because sometimes when you're looking, if we continue to try to manage ourselves outward,
Mhm.
we're not going to make an authentic impact. But once we go inward and we start looking at our unique talents and we start realizing what is going on with us, am I disengaged or am I burnout?
Yeah.
What are my strengths is causing me to be burnout? Well, if I have achiever and I keep just going, getting on the treadmill every day, and I'm not trying to stop and really take a breath, then I know that I'm getting into that overwhelmed state. And so it's really, for me, it's just looking at what's going on and really living. It's, Jacqueline, as you know, this is not a what thing you do and you say, okay, I've got my strengths, I know my well-being, I'm good to go. No, this is a daily work, and it's a daily intentional work, because I think when we're in our strengths, we're going to be more productive, more confident. We're just going to be living out of what we were made to do. But some of those can get in our way. Like I said, achiever, if you're just trying to execute all the time and you're not taking that breath and turning that one off. So I think just looking at what you've got to do each day, which strength you're going to use, and then what are the adjustments you're going to make when you feel some triggers. When you're trying to blame other people, that's a trigger. When you're getting mad at the world, instead of saying, what's going on with me? How can I be my authentic self today in this and take care of me? What is it that I've got to do to take care of me today? So that's
Wow.
one kind of micro adjustment that I like to talk about.
Yeah. It reminds me what you just mentioned of, I love the question that you had just offered. And one that I often think about is, yeah, what do I need? What do I need right now? What does my body need right now? Listen to your inner voice, because it's going to tell you,
Mhm.
yeah, you need to go outside. You need think time.
Mhm.
You need to take some things off your plate. And so it really is listening to that inner voice.
And taking time to put well-being in your calendar, taking time to put, to manage your day based on your strengths, instead of trying to manage it based on others' expectations, or maybe an expectation you had of yourself that wasn't your true self. And I think this is what's so exciting, is once you get this pattern down, and you feel your triggers, it's just living that way daily. And
Mhm.
just setting it up daily so that you can be adjusting, turning knobs up, turning them down. Which strength do I need to use? Which one do I need to turn off? I need to turn off my futuristic. I'm just way into the future and I'm not living for today in the present. And so I think it's just a daily internal work. And sometimes we don't want to do the internal work because we just don't want to go there. But that's where the power is. And that's where the followers feel it when they see their leader intentionally working on themselves.
Yes. I like what you said too. They might just not want to go there.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll even hear the excuse, I just don't have time. You have to make the time. And that could be a good opportunity to also reconvene with the rest of the leadership team, just to make sure everyone's playing within their own field of strengths, especially when it gets busy. That's when you really need to be leaning into each other the most to make sure you're still playing in your respective positions, so to speak.
Yes. And really just be yourself and be nice to yourself and not take away all those personas you have of yourself of you've got to be this boss and you've got to be everywhere and do everything and be with your family and do other, and then you're in burnout or disengagement and you just have that. So how can we change that paradigm? How can we shift? And it's not big things, right? Jacqueline's little micro adjustments. Oh, my futuristic got in my way today. I need to turn that one down and turn up my, or my achiever got in my way. And it's just learning. And then I'm with a friend right now and visiting, and she's like, how do I make sure I get up and work out every day? I said, we should just do it one little step at a time. You don't see it as a big thing. Just make a little step, just don't. And I think so many times we think I don't have time. Well, it's time. It's not about managing your energy. I mean, your time is about managing your energy. So I think that, and especially in applying your strengths and your well-being to that.
Yeah, I agree.
So as we get into the second stage of this framework, just integrating AI thoughtfully, I think this is a new thought that I love. And it's really about, and it goes back to what we've been saying, the red thread here is authenticity. How do I be my human self? And think about all the things I've got to do that I can get AI to do, but what are the human things that I should be doing?
Yes.
Right? Like right now, we are not robots. We are here. Yes. We could be, but we don't want to be because that's not who we are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's a good way too of sorting between where do I want AI to be integrated into the workplace and where do I not? That human touch, the complex problem solving, emotional needs as you're connecting with customers, face to face. Oftentimes, you've got salespeople. That face to face is there's something about it, just that human connection or the phone call. And then where are those more repetitive or tedious tasks that AI can gladly take over?
And then if you're an entrepreneur like us, or you're even in a corporate situation, there's all kinds of systems and things, and a lot of them are changing right now. Yeah. So give yourself a break. Don't feel like, oh, I have to do all these right now. What is the one thing we're going to do in the second quarter of 2025 that's going to make a difference that AI can help us with? What is the one thing we're going to do as a leader in 2025? The one tweak that we can do where I'm going to have my boundaries up about what I'm going to do with AI and what I'm not going to do with AI. We're not saying you can't use a robot, but we're saying we want you to be your authentic self every day in your business. So as a leader, your followers see you and see that going on.
It's a good point. And something came to mind on this. It's slipping away from me now. Oh,
it'll come back.
It's strengths related. Someone high in futuristic or ideation might love thinking about AI. And so this is your happy place, or learn or input. You love it. You just want to absorb all the new knowledge on AI. But you could also stress yourself out because there's so much to learn about it and I just can't learn enough. So it is kind of taking it with some bated breath as well. Like you said, boundaries in place. Or if this feels out of your field entirely, there's a lot of consultants out there right now that are working in fractional positions with organizations to help them look at their overall organization and say, this is where AI might be conducive for you in your workplace. And this is a program I would recommend. So don't feel at the same time like you have to take everything on yourself. There's plenty of consultants that can support your overall well-being. Going back up to bullet one.
One One of the best pieces of advice I got from Herb Kelleher, who started Southwest, was, we don't jump on the bandwagon when something's brand new. We kind of wait for it to go through the pendulum and then come back. And
Yeah.
so give yourself a break. I mean, there's so many people that want to go get the new thing and then it's got all these issues, but just give yourself some time, and not overwhelm yourself with all the things you want to add. I cannot tell you how much I love AI and how I've used it in so many ways, but I have some guidelines around it now. And then I'm constantly testing and learning. That's another thing I like to say with AI: test and learn. Don't feel like this is it. If you're in a big corporation, yes, you're going to have people that are working on that and what the company is going to do and what that's going to look like, and then how it's going to come into your path as a leader. But learning how to not resist it, but just test and learn from it, and then share that with your team instead of saying, oh, this was horrible, I couldn't learn it. Like, well, hey, I've got an 86-year-old mother that just went to college, and she's got learners. So she's going to constantly be learning things. And so that strength will never go away. So use it to learn, but don't get frustrated if you don't get it the first time, or there's other new things coming out and your company didn't get the next greatest thing. The whole idea here is self-learning and working on you and managing self. So I think that's a thing to think about when you're thinking about AI. And then the other thing that's been coming up, and in fact, just last week, I interviewed a woman on the podcast, and she really told me what a great opportunity she had in doing these empathy interviews with her people around her. And they didn't know her. She was new as a leader. So if you're transitioning into a new leadership role, or you're got a new team, or there's changes going on, layoffs, whatever, go back and spend that time with each person and have an empathy and figure out what their needs are, so that you're not trying to solve all the problems with just a hypothesis of what you think they need. And this is another thing in our reconnection framework I think could help.
Absolutely. I love the idea of empathy interviews. What is it you need?
Yes.
Just support. It shows so much compassion and care in the workplace. And that's what people want.
I think people, it's funny. If you ask people what they need, they'll tell you. We just forget to ask them that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they'll tell you.
What do you need? Oh, well, let me think about that for a minute, and I'll tell you. So it's kind of cool. Any other thoughts on integrating AI, Jacqueline, that you have, or do you think we covered that?
I feel like we covered that really well at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get down to these.
But yeah.
Yeah. Let's get down to the 4 needs and what those are. Can you explain those to the audience, those people that haven't heard about this?
Yes. I love the 4 needs. And for a number of reasons, but the 4 needs came about through Gallup when they wanted to study what it is that draws an individual to follow a leader. Doesn't just have to be in the workplace. It could be a political leader, a family leader, and religious leader, and so forth. There was a lot of research on what does it take to be a great leader, but not a lot on what does it take for a follower to want to lead. And so these were the 4 needs that came up. People are looking for hope, stability, trust, and compassion in someone that they follow. And so before even looking outwards to say, how do I offer this to my followership, those that are in my organization, how are you internalizing these 4 and giving them to yourself is what I've been coaching a lot of individuals on. So how are you offering yourself hope? Where there's an obstacle, where are you finding some optimism? Or who do you know that could be a great accountability partner that sees optimism where you're finding difficulty? How do you offer yourself stability when everything around you is changing? How are you grounding yourself? Trust. Who do you trust? Who do you trust in your sphere of influence, or in your family, that you can just go to for support and be vulnerable with? And then compassion, I often think about as self-care and well-being for yourself. And once you fed yourself with these 4 needs, it's going to be much easier to communicate and do the same with others. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love that you turn those internal, because I think that's been the theme today.
Hmm.
What am I thinking? What am I doing inside? What and how that has effect on everybody around me, whether I'm leading my family, my, at church or at work. How do I lead well? And I think one of the biggest things is the internal work that we're talking about. And compassion. There was a time in my career where I did not know how I really felt. I just didn't
Mm.
even, I wasn't in touch with my feelings. I didn't know how to have compassion about a feeling I was having. And I think it was just I had gone through a rough patch, and I just kind of was just the normal, get through it, you'll be fine. And, and I think being able to have a moment and just name the feeling you're going through, and be able to say, man, I'm really sad right now, but I'm also joyful about this, but I'm sad about that, or I'm really happy, but I'm kind of anxious about this. And that's freeing to be able to do that. And then who are those people I really trust? Who are those people that I would put on around, around a circle, around a campfire, that I would want to be with and just pour my heart out with? And they would just want me to be my best, and they would tell me the truth and
Mhm.
care for me. And then the stability is, how do I bring stability to myself when the world around me is crazy? Well, it's all internal work. It's all about, I can't go get that from outside. It's got to come from inside. And then hope. What is the hope that you talked about that I can create? And what are the things I'm doing to manage myself daily so that I can be my best self?
Mhm. And know that tomorrow can be better than today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we'd love to hear from you guys. Any questions on this? Any thoughts you have? Or even if there's one takeaway that you want to take away today that you got from all of this, we'd love for you just to write it in the chat, and then we will definitely answer your question and help solve, help be able to brainstorm things with you. But the whole idea is here is to have the conversation of, let's pull off everything that's external and start going internal, and using these tools to help us be better. Any thoughts as we wait for some questions, Jacqueline?
Well, I know you've got some great resources and tools, speaking of tools, available that can help people work
Oh,
through.
yeah.
Love your strength journal if you want to
Yes.
talk about that.
Well, of course, I am a big believer in strengths. Gallup Clifton Strengths. If you're not familiar with that, you can go to Gallup Clifton Strengths, and we can get you the link for that and take your assessment. And basically, what I found when I was using strengths in the workplace is I would work with the team or work with myself on, managing my strengths, and there was no framework. So I created a framework, and it's called the Strengths Journal, and it's a daily active journal where you plan out your mission, what your values are, you put your strengths in there, what you bring, what you need, and then daily you plan your day intentionally based on your unique talents. I've been doing it now for 5 years. It's amazing the energy I have, and now I know I can intentionally plan. And now, Jacqueline, I'm designing my day instead of living my day by default. And I think that's what so many people are doing. So it also has a section in there where you can evaluate the week before and say, oh, where do I need to make some adjustments? And then rate your well-being. How am I doing these areas, and what can I do to change, and how can I use my strengths for that? So that's a tool I'd recommend, and you can get that at thestrengthsjournal.com. And I'll put that in the chat as well. How about you? What are some thoughts and some things that you've been using?
Yeah. I've been reading a lot of books. and I love to read, but I know anyone else that loves to read, you kind of have your phases. Sometimes you have opportunities to just absorb a lot, and sometimes not.
Yeah.
So I love reflection cards where I can pull one out every day and look at either an affirmation or a reflection. And then there's all kinds of books I've been pulling from. So one that I'm going to start reading soon is The Pivot Year. I'm in the middle of one on coaching at the moment, and I'm looking at some reflection cards at the moment. If you go to my shop group, if any of you are interested in just looking at books related to purpose or well-being, JacquelineRobinson.com/shop. There's just all types of books and cards related to that process. But that's what I'm unpacking right now, is just looking at more of those related to cultural intelligence or mental well-being or active listening as it relates to coaching.
Mhm.
There's always opportunities for
You know,
more listening in my book.
I'm glad you brought up books because that's another. I'm a book. I love help books that can help, but I don't want like I need things that I can take in chunks and that
Yeah.
have frameworks. And so I
Yes.
love the prompts you're talking about. But I'm recently reading Unoffendable. So in this culture where people like in conversations, you can be sitting in an airport or sitting in a cafe and you hear people arguing over something, and then you hear somebody else getting upset, and it's like, wait, how do you listen and just appreciate what somebody is saying, but don't have to be right?
Mhm.
And just again, manage yourself internally about that and then move on to the next thing. And so it's been a really interesting book to read.
That's a
So
really good one. I feel like we're on the same page in terms of what we're interested in right now. Yeah, the inner therapist in me, the unlicensed, by the way, let me just claim that therapist in me, and the coach is always loving anything related to, energy, or how do we make sure we're not doing
Mhm,
transference or countertransference, and how do we
mhm.
lead with compassion whenever we're listening, and powerful questions. I think as coaches, we're always looking for more opportunities for that, aren't we?
Yeah. So we
In our
want to challenge you guys today too, as you're out there, share with us what you're reading, what you're doing, what you need right now. I think it's really important that that we help each other and share and be that person that, because you are difference makers, you wouldn't be here right now. And you just want to make an impact. We're giving you things, giving you tools we've learned, and we're going to keep learning, and we're going to keep being here. We're going to be here on May 19th because we're usually here the last Monday of every month, but that's a Memorial Day. So we don't want to be here on a holiday, and we don't want you either. We got to manage our well-being too. So we will be here on May 19th at noon, and we'll be sharing some more insights. But in the meantime, please follow us. Please share comments, thoughts. We want to hear what's going on in your life and things that you need. So we just appreciate you being here today. Jacqueline, is always so fun to be with you and just hear what you're learning and what you're doing and how you're making an impact with so many. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
So you guys go out and make it a great week. And we're just glad that we got to be with you today. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.